I think I can pull twice that at 18 and a half from the California pensions. We got close to 500,000 shares in the bag.
Huh?
That's my favorite scene in Wall Street. It's 500,000 shares in the bag. We used to say that at Lehman all the time. Hi, I'm Jared Dillian. I worked on Wall Street for a number of years. I was a trader for Lehman Brothers from 2001 to 2008. Since then, I've been publishing a financial newsletter called the Daily Dirt Nap, and I am a commodity trading advisor. Today, we'll be looking at Wall Street scenes in movies and TV and judge how real they are. There's a lot of people who watch The Wolf of Wall Street and they think that's what Wall Street is, when it's really the wolf of strip malls in Long Island. Jordan Belfort had a firm called Stratton Oakmont, which was a penny stock brokerage. There was fraud and there was illegal sales tactics, and he did go to jail. It is not Wall Street. It is not institutional finance. Well, the funny thing is that Christmas parties for the major Wall Street firms were common up until the financial crisis. When I was at Lehman, we had a Christmas party at the Hilton on 6th Avenue. There were multiple DJs, multiple dance floors. And then after the financial crisis, the Christmas parties went away, kind of for, for financial reasons, but also for optical reasons. It was considered to be a little untoward for, a Wall Street bank to be having a big, ostentatious Christmas party. But you didn't have women getting their heads shaved. You didn't have a marching band. You didn't have strippers. Like, that didn't happen. Well, I actually think for a penny stock brokerage in the 1980s, I think it gets a high rating for realism. I would say about a 7.5. It doesn't mean that I like it. I don't like it, but I think it's, for what it is, I think it's actually somewhat realistic.
They paid on time.
Michael, how are you, guy?
I want to short the housing market.
Really?
The idea of Michael Burry as this eccentric hedge fund manager, making calls that he wants to short the housing market, I think that's very realistic. The term short is used in general terms to describe betting against anything. So if you want to bet that a stock is going down, what you do is you borrow the stock and then you sell it and you wait for the price to go down and then you buy it back and you return the stock that you bought.
Basically, Louis Rainieri's mortgage bonds were amazingly profitable for the big banks. So the banks started filling these bonds with riskier and riskier mortgages.
Her description of it is pretty good. So what she's talking about here is the process of securitization, taking a pool of mortgages and putting them into bonds. And as she says in the clip, this became so popular that pretty much every mortgage in the country had been securitized. So they were looking for other things to securitize, so less creditworthy mortgages.
This is your basic mortgage bond. Triple B's, 0. And then that happens.
What is that?
That's America's housing market.
For a bunch of bankers and traders to be in a conference room talking about a trade, that's pretty common. The use of Jenga blocks, like, I've never seen visual aids in one of these conversations, but for sure, yeah, that could happen. In these CDOs, collateralized debt obligations, you had a bunch of tranches of various credit qualities and you had AAA at the top. They said, look, we can package these in such a way that even though they're risky on an individual basis, they're less risky when you pull them together. That turned out not to be true.
In fact, your chances of winning this hand are 87%.
So, my odds are good. I'm on a winning streak, but people who are watching and think that I won't lose will make a side bet.
Really, up until that point, the U.S. housing market had never been correlated. You would have a bull market in New York, you would have a bear market in L.A., you would have a bull market in Minneapolis, and it was doing different things at different times. Well, the problem is that in 07, the stuff in the AAA tranche, which was never supposed to fail, suddenly became correlated and it failed all at once.
This isn't how I pictured it.
I mean, obviously, Lehman Brothers had a big role in the financial crisis. I did not, on an individual level. I was in equities, I was trading ETFs, I was totally removed from, all the financial engineering and unicorn that was going on at the firm. Basically, Lehman Brothers management made a big bet on real estate and mortgages. And not just on securities, but also on physical real estate. At the time of the bankruptcy, the firm owned about $40 billion worth of real estate. And that made it almost impossible to bail out because the assets were so illiquid at the time of the bankruptcy. I would give it an 8 in terms of realism. I know some of the people involved that are portrayed in this movie, and it's reasonably accurate.
How much did we lose today?
$1 billion.
You can lose, theoretically, an infinite amount of money. I think Melvin was a $10 billion hedge fund, and I think they lost $6.8 billion on GameStop. Well, I mean, it's not common. I mean, you know, this was a once in a 100-year event. Crazy stuff happens in the stock market. Even a stock like Nvidia, which everybody knows about, Nvidia is up 400% or 500% more since 2022. I think there's been a number of consequences to this, but I think on an institutional level, I think if you're a long-short hedge fund, you have to take a really close look at your shorts and evaluate them as if they are candidates for a squeeze for something like this. Like people will never look at long-short investing the same way again. I'll give it a 6 for realism. They had some charts where the stock was going up very quickly. It doesn't really work like that. It's a lot slower. Open outcry trading floors were the best thing in the world. I absolutely loved it. I worked on an open outcry trading floor. This is the NYBOT. This is the New York Board of Trade, where they trade most of the soft commodities. And the first time I set foot on a trading floor was the NYBOT in 1999. And from the moment I set foot on that floor, I knew I wanted to be a trader. It was it was incredible. Is the trading floor as chaotic as it's depicted in the movies? I wasn't on a trading floor in the 80s. I started in the late 90s. But even in the 2000s, trading floors were pretty chaotic. There were paper tickets. There was yelling out of orders. Open outcry trading floors are gone. They're all gone. It's all been changed to electronic trading. And if you made this movie today, it would be a bunch of guys around the country like clicking their mouse on their computer.
Now,
South Garden April of 142!
That's not really what open outcry trading looks like, but it's good enough. Trading Places is one of the classic Wall Street movies. When Dan Aykroyd says time to sell and everybody converges on him and they start buying from him, like it doesn't really happen that way. It's a little bit more disorganized and chaotic. It helps to be physically large and intimidating. I mean, there's a lot of aggression involved.
Ladies and gentlemen, the orange crop estimates for the next year. The cold winter has apparently not affected the orange harvest.
Yeah, I mean, in the financial world, you have economic data. In the agricultural world, you have crop reports. And the one for most agricultural commodities is called WASDE. It's called World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates. And yes, when that comes out, and now it's not open outcry, everybody's at their computers, but they're sitting waiting to trade when the WASDE numbers come out.
You know perfectly well we don't have $394 million in cash.
I'm sorry, boys. Seize all assets of Duke and Duke Commodities Brokers, as well as all personal holdings of Randolph and Mortimer Duke.
With Randolph and Mortimer getting all their assets seized at the end, while there's, that's not going to happen. But that is how the futures margining system works. A future is an agreement to buy or sell something at some specified date in the future. Like everything is marked to market at the end of the day, and you have a credit or a debit at the end of the day. And if you can't meet the margin call, then the exchange will liquidate your positions. Here, he's talking about going after their personal assets and stuff like that. Like, I don't know about that, but the clearing firm will probably take legal action to, satisfy the margin call. Even though it's not super realistic, I got to give Trading Places some love. It's one of the classics, and it's open outcry, so I'll give it an 8.
There's going to be considerable turmoil in the markets for the foreseeable future. The firm has decided to liquidate its majority position of fixed income MBS today.
The one thing about markets is that if you're going to panic, you want to panic first, right? Like it's not that you should not panic, you just have to panic before everybody else does.
This is what the beginning of a fire sale looks like.
Jesus, where does this land?
96 on the dollar.
91.
All three, and we're done at 94.
93 and a half.
Done.
So what you saw in that clip, Paul Bettany, who is terrific, he starts selling bonds at like 94, and then the price goes down, and the price goes down as the firm sells bonds over the course of the day. And like that is panicking first before everyone else does. I'd say that's the most realistic trading floor I've seen so far in a movie. I think Paul Bettany sounds like a real salesperson. Kevin Spacey is kind of chewing the scenery and doing his Kevin Spacey thing, and I don't think he was really convincing as a MD. I would give it a 7.
We're getting hit by a tsunami.
Did the Fed hike?
No, actual tsunami in Brazil.
Weather can actually have a big impact. I mean, in agriculture, if you're trading agriculture futures, there's people who just trade the weather. And in the stock market, I mean, probably the biggest example of this was Hurricane Katrina 20 years ago. The interesting thing was the stock market actually went up. So, you know, weather causes catastrophic loss.
A few of the moves I'm already making. Shorting Brazil's largest debt holder, buying long-dated VIX calls, also buying solar, wind, and every alternative energy play not dependent on government subsidy.
That's actually reasonably realistic. With any catalyst, there's sort of a first-order play, and then there's second and third-order plays. Buying long-dated VIX calls. So this is very complicated to explain. There are options on the VIX, which is crazy because they're kind of like options on an index of options. It's a derivative. It's unicorn. It's crazy stuff. I think that's actually a terrible idea for this for this trade, but I think it sounds good on TV.
Is no one worried about the people, in Brazil?
Sometimes in your trading career, there will be a circumstance where something bad happens and you can profit from it, and by profiting from it, you will make somebody else's life worse somewhere else in the world. The depiction of Wall Street of being ruthless or cold-hearted is cartoonish at times. What I found with people on Wall Street is that they are typically very generous of their time, very forgiving, and I mean, there are exceptions, but Billions in general, I think, is guilty of that, throughout all their seasons.
I lost a CEO yesterday. Something's blocking my efficiency.
Focus on process. It's where your genius shows up. The rest will flow.
I saw season 1 of Billions many years ago, and Wendy's character, I was like, okay, this is TV. Like, they don't have performance coaches at hedge funds. Apparently they do. Like, apparently this is a thing. I did not know that this was a thing until like 3 months ago, when one of my newsletter subscribers actually reached out to me and he said he was a performance coach. People don't understand how psychologically difficult it is to work on Wall Street. I mean, a lot of jobs are hard, right? Being an ER doc is super hard. Being in the military is super hard. And I think that's very visible. And I think when they look at people on Wall Street, like either in TV shows or elsewhere, and what it looks like, which is, in the industry clip, experiencing that stress when the market goes down and moves against her, that type of stress is really the main reason I got out of the business.
Muffy, this is for you. 1 million straight in crypto.
The crypto on the flash drive, I guess you could pay somebody in crypto. I mean, it's super shady. Like, never mind like the regulatory aspects of that, but the tax aspects of that, are terrible. What happened with Silk Road. I mean, the interesting thing is that Ross Ulbricht, he was running basically a Walmart for illegal drugs on the dark web, and all the payments were transacted in crypto. I think what people have learned about crypto over the years is that it's not untraceable. I think people thought that to begin with, and it's not, which makes this even more implausible. You got to give the writers and the producers credit for getting the scenery right and the costumes right. That was the one thing I noticed about Billions. When I watched the first season, the costumes and the scenery were so good, I almost had to lay down. I think that the plot and some of the trades are kind of unrealistic over time, so I'll give it a 6.
We just wanted to make contact, given where we are.
We are concerned.
But I guess the issue is we owe you $3.2 billion.
3.25.
It's very possible to negotiate with lenders. I mean, a negotiation is necessary, and I think here's the problem. In this scene, the CEO is really not in a position to negotiate. I think some of the language here, some of it was good, some of it was bad. You know, the investor says we are concerned, which I think is a good thing to say. What he could say is we don't have $3.25 billion. You're getting a fraction of that, or we work together. So that would be a more effective negotiation. So he just totally screws it up here.
What your position will be if we have a sustained breach of the stock price and we fall out of compliance with our debt covenant?
And our position is to seek recruitment.
Oh, come on, man. F off.
I think that it's not realistic at all, because if you're going to have a conversation between a CEO and an investor about potentially breaching debt covenants, you would have lawyers in the room. They would be telling him what to say, and you know, just this guy, you know, hey, what's up? Just calling him up, and you know, and then you know, telling him to F off. Like it's that's not realistic at all. I give it a 3. Like, this is a big phone call. It's not just going to be, you know, 2 dudes talking on the phone.
Come on, pal. Tell me something I don't know. Blue Star Airlines. They just got a favorable ruling on a lawsuit that even the plaintiffs don't know about.
God help you if you're ever trafficking in insider information. You know, Bud Fox was kind of stuck. He gave a bunch of, what you don't see is that he gives a bunch of ideas to Gordon Gekko, and he dismisses all the ideas. And the one where he does have inside information, which is on his dad's airline, is what he gives him. Yeah, not good. I'm not an expert on the insider trading laws. Basically what they call it nowadays is MNPI, which is material non-public information. After the crackdown on insider trading in the 2010s, hedge funds put a lot of policies and procedures in place to make sure that they do not receive MNPI. There was a period of time, I mean, everybody remembers Gallion and Raj Rajaratnam and all the insider trading convictions from Preet Bharara in like 2010. That crackdown was effective, and I would say that the hedge fund world is hypersensitive, even paranoid, about coming into contact with any non-public information today.
I think I can pull twice that at 18.5 from the California pensions. We got close to 500,000 shares in the bag.
Huh?
That's my favorite scene in Wall Street. It's 500,000 shares in the bag. It's absolutely my favorite. We used to say that at Lehman all the time. We used to say 500,000 shares in the bag. Well, it's kind of like Trading Places. It's not the most realistic clip in the world, but it's a classic. I would give it an 8.5, but I'll round up to a 9. 8.5. There was a pill that would give me 1,000 IQ, and I could quintuple my money in 4 days. I wish that existed. I'd probably take it. When I was at Lehman in the 2000s, I mean, it was a big drinking culture. You know, I would go to the bar every day after work, and we'd go out a couple nights a week with clients and stuff. I don't want to say that it's really cleaned up its act. That's not really the right word. But nowadays, people go home. Like, they just, you know, they go home and watch TV. Like, it's really boring. I think that as a trader, if you sit in front of a screen for 8 hours a day and just watch the market, I think you do be able to pick up on patterns. There are day trading firms, and I think they look kind of like that. The idea of somebody just having a magic pill to, you know, to make profits, I don't know. I would give it a 5.
Well, I'm here to make digital information travel faster between the Kansas Electronic Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange.
I was
1 millisecond faster!
Pretty bad. So what they're trying to do is take a fiber optic cable and take it from Kansas to New York and make a faster connection than they have in existence. And in the clip, he talks about getting it 1 millisecond faster. First of all, the whole high frequency trading thing of like setting up fiber optic lines and stuff like that, all the technology behind that has gotten so sophisticated. We're now talking about like microseconds and nanoseconds, not even milliseconds. Like it's gotten incredibly fast. And I think we've made all the advances we're going to make on that front. I don't think it's going to get any faster.
My name is Santana Lopez, FBI. Under arrest for committing stock market fraud by using proprietary code.
Well, Alexander Skarsgård is being arrested because he misappropriated some source code from his previous employer, and you know, he's being arrested for, they say stock market fraud, I guess it would be securities fraud. The theft of intellectual property in the form of computer code is actually kind of a big deal right now. There's a big lawsuit about that between two trading firms. And, you know, that IP is super, super valuable. You know, I mean, depending on what algorithm it is, it could be something that makes $250 million.
Somebody rigged our network.
Leaving a bug in somebody's software to make it slower, I guess that's possible. If that happened, I don't think people would be slamming keyboards on the desk. That's not realistic to me. I'm going to give this a 4. This is not very realistic.
Yeah, Slattery. Yeah, no, I can't talk right now. Employment number's coming out.
All right, I just wanted to let
Call you later.
I'm supposed to meet you at Mont.
I think actually my favorite part of that is when he hangs up on Philip Seymour Hoffman. You know, because that's a traitor right there. Like, you know, I don't have time to talk, click, see you later. I hung up on my wife like that at Lehman. Bye, see you later.
I am still your boss, and I am telling you now, you sell half those contracts.
Telling you, got a theory. Look at this. Check
Oh,
these out.
good. You've got a theory. Look, Frank, you and your theory.
The language is all wrong. Like, this is Spike Lee. This is how he thinks traders talk. And it's absolutely not the case. Today, it's much more polite. No one's going to be dropping F-bombs. It's just going to be, a very calm, polite conversation. Look, this movie came out in 2002, okay? So in the 90s, maybe people would talk to each other like this. This is my favorite. This is my favorite out of all of them. Because it's actually a common discussion to have for a manager to come to a trader and say, look, like, you need to cut risk. But 25th Hour is a great movie. It's a very underrated movie in general. I'm gonna give it a 9, you know, because of the language and stuff. My favorite Wall Street movie is Wall Street. And one of the reasons I like that movie is because Oliver Stone basically threw a temper tantrum and said, I'm gonna make this movie to make everybody hate Wall Street. And it totally backfired. And everybody thought it was the coolest thing ever, and everybody wanted to work on Wall Street. But Wall Street, I actually teach at the university level, and there was one semester we had like an extra class, so I showed the movie to my class. And I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what Wall Street was like in 1987. Like, this is real. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, why not click on the next video?